About This Love.
How you guys doing? You tuned into About This Love podcast with your host Dell and Sherelle. Say what's up to the peoples.
What's up, peoples?
We're coming at you all the way from Baltimore. Be more, but you can always be more. That's our new tagline.
No, it's not. We're still working on a tagline, so please drop it. In the comment section if you have a better tagline for us.
If you like that, be more. You can always be more. Please drop that in the comment as well. We got a lot of great response from our 5-part podcast series, Intentional Dating That Leads to Marriage. We really got a lot of people in the comments and even on our TikTok page who really had some great comments and was really grateful for it. So that kind of actually led us to into having a conversation about well, is it really marriage that people want? Because I know some people actually don't want marriage in today's culture. And if you've been living under a rock, then you actually know that marriages in America have actually been declining for the past decade. Even if you go and look at the numbers from the 80s, 90s to now, they're very low. So I think it's no surprise that marriage is declining. But one of the things I was talking to my wife about, and she can kind of give her insight on it. A lot of people that think they want marriage, what they actually want is fellowship. And a lot of people actually don't really have fellowship in the sense that, or what I would consider healthy fellowship. The person that you're friends with, they're giving you good sound advice. I was watching a short YouTube video of Tyrese's ex-wife, the actor from Fast and the Furious and the singer, My Lady Would You Be Mine, Tyrese. But I was watching an interview of his ex-wife, and one of the things that she said, I took a mental note of it, and it was years ago, because they've been divorced probably for years now. But I actually took a mental note of it. And one of the things that she said was that I think I ended up divorcing my ex-husband because of just having a lot of people in my ear, friends and things and that nature. When she said it, I was like, wow. Now, a part of me was like, well, is she saying it because she just wanted his money? But anyways, that's kind of where my mind wanders. But the point that I'm trying to make is that she ultimately got a divorce, or what I'll say what led to her getting a divorce, with I'm sure with addition to other things, is that people in her ear who obviously didn't mean her any good, because unless Tyrese was abusive to her, which I haven't heard any things that he was. I'm not saying he was perfect, but unless he was abusive or physically, threatening her or verbally abusive, I don't really think that, there was any need for somebody to tell her to get a divorce or tell her to leave him. And I think that sometimes, which the component goes back to fellowship, is that sometimes we have people in our corner that really don't mean us any good. And sometimes we don't even actually know it or realize it, because we're just so used to the negativity, we're used to the toxicity, that we don't even realize that these people don't even mean us no good. And so I think what a lot of people actually want, but it's really viewed, or you see it in marriage, is a closeness to somebody. So a lot of people, I don't think they actually, and I'm not saying everybody, I don't want nobody blasting me in the comments, I'm not saying everybody, but I think the majority of people who actually think they want marriage, what they actually want is fellowship.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Okay, so you said a lot there. You said
I had to kind of lay the groundwork, since before you put on the Legos and the Hot Wheels. Her and her,
Legos and the Hot Wheels.
The kids all day, they be, doing Legos. And
now we be building up in here for sure. So you know what? I like that you said that. I don't know if y'all know, I do my own thing sometimes on TikTok, and I go live, and sometimes on My Maven. So if you're into homeschooling and home life and Legos and things like that, I talk about those things on TikTok. But I think it's really important. I'm a circle back because it makes sense. And so I was almost explaining how we may not feel like we have the liberty to do something because we are living up to others' expectations. So in our own homes and in our marriages, and even as parents, we may not do, or we may do certain things because of what the people we are in relationship with say, or how they may feel, or what they may think. And so it's not genuinely us. And not that that's all a bad thing, right? Because, we talk about it. We've spoken about it on the podcast all the time, where just having community, having people speak into your life can be a good thing. And that's why we have you and I sitting here today, because we have been positioned in a place where the Lord has put people of God who would encourage us to stay married. And so in the same way, had there been just spoiled apples in the bunch, that may have,
Our demise as well.
yes, been our demise, that may have spoiled the riches and the gifts and the fruits of our marriage had we allowed that into our lives. And so I do agree with you when you say we do long for that fellowship. We do long to relate to one another, which is why, hear me out, there's so many songs out there that just kind of echoes, are you the one for me? Oh my gosh. Okay, this is so carnal, but Rihanna's make me feel like I'm the only girl in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to know that someone sees us, that we have that intimacy. And this is beyond like the physical connection that you have with someone.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that people kind of give up freely. Like, you see somebody at the club, and if y'all on the vibe, y'all go home and boom, boom, it is what it is. That doesn't really take a deep connection is my point.
Absolutely.
It should be required to go there, but unfortunately, in today's culture, that's not really the case.
That's easier for most people because it's like, oh my gosh, as long as they don't see my insecurities, I don't mind people seeing my body. Like, that's how people think. And so I agree with you. But, the other thing I was thinking was just how close people cling to their friendships closer than their romantic relationship. I'm going to bust out somebody for a minute, but I'm not going to call them out by name. But, I was told by someone, oh yeah, I got it on the calendar, meeting with my boys every month. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, but aren't you in a committed marriage? Do you have a meeting? So I was kind of just probing, to figure out, is it just as important
with your spouse?
Yeah, is it just as important to have that monthly date, that monthly hangout with your person as it is with your boys? And it was almost like, well, we go out just as much, if not more, but this is on the calendar for me and the boys. And I'm like, but you see what I'm saying? Like, the intentionality there.
But I think also too the deception in that is, well, I see you every day. I lay beside you. We may take showers together, or whatever, eat together. But it's like, so that sometimes we feel like as men we could get into a mode where we feel like that's intentional. But to your point, it's not really intentional. It's like I work with Bama's every day. Like, I don't go out, I don't hang out with them outside of work. So it's like it's not intentional at all. I'm just happy to be around you because we have a common task that we have to do, or we live together. It doesn't mean that we're actually spending any kind of quality time together. So I get what you're saying. Like
two ships passing in the night,
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're both in the water together, but we're just passing by. We don't stop to, I guess you don't want ships to collide, but you want to collide with the person that you are building with. And so, yeah, you can feel very lonely. And I've heard people say that they could be in a room full of people and feel lonely. And it's really because nobody sees you. You have no connection with them. And so as I'm talking, I was sitting there thinking, I actually like what you said there, just about how you could be going to work with the person every day and see them, but it's not intentional. You know what I'm saying? That's not intentional. You guys just have a commonality. And you were saying for you as men, you would feel like that's intentional, but it's crazy because as women, it's like, wait a minute, I know he walked past me and, said, I love you, but okay, we want a little bit more. I want to connect in the way that I understand and receive that connection,
Yeah.
And I know it's in the same way for men too.
I think about our kids.
Yeah.
And I think about one of the things that I mentioned, people that know me, I'm very affectionate. I give hugs, I give kisses, I give my kids hugs, I give my kids kisses. And I was telling my wife that I was the one with Sherelle, my wife, that's somebody over there.
Yeah, I'm like,
I was telling Sherelle that when I was a kid, some of my mother's siblings used to give us a kiss too. And my father's family was as well. So, but I think that, when I married Sherelle, I won't say that they're not affectionate, because they are.
It looks different.
They're just not affectionate outwardly the way that my family is. My family, we give hugs, we give kisses on the cheek. That's just what we do, So I feel like when I came to her, when I married Sherelle, or became a part of her family before we got married, and started giving people hugs, it was like, oh, what you doing? They didn't mind, but it was like, oh, what you doing? My point is saying that I think that our kids, to them that's natural. Like when I leave for work, my kids are like, well, give me a kiss, or give me a hug. I'm like, dude, I just gave you a hug. Well, give me a kiss. I'm like, I just gave you a kiss. Oh, give me another one. So I think that perspective, a lot of that comes from childhood. Like a lot of us never got that as children. So unfortunately, we grow up wanting that. I heard Annalise say when I was younger, in my mid to 20s, she was like, What I wanted was intimacy, not physical, but just as far as like somebody to see me. And because of that, she's very promiscuous. And she was like, for her, that was the way she would feel intimacy and someone knowing her. But unfortunately, we know that was perverted. And I think that she probably realized that as well as she got older. But I feel like that's kind of what leads to a lot of promiscuity, is that people actually want to be seen. They want to be heard. That's not always. I'm not going to be like, well, that's not always, of course. That's not what I'm saying. But I think the majority of it is just the void of something that I didn't get as a kid. And now as an adult, I'm wanting that. Like, I've heard stories from young girls who've had their fathers in their life. They were not promiscuous. That telling them that they look good, don't do nothing for them. My father told me I look good for my whole life. Don't do nothing for me. And try again, sucker. I'm joking. But my point is, when you grow up from a kid to an adult and you never see any healthy intimacy, someone actually taking the time, because like sometimes I ask my son, I'm like, hey, yo, like what are you thinking about? He'll just like start with nothing. I'm like, so are you sitting over there doing what you're doing? You don't think about nothing? You're like, well, I'm thinking about this and thinking about that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you are thinking about something, but like somebody actually like engaging you, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, what do you like? What don't you like? You know what I'm saying? That's why I said oftentimes we think we want a relationship as far as intimacy and romantic, but what we really want is just fellowship. One of the things that I'll say in the Bible is, and kind of parallel to real life, anytime you see in scripture where people's relationship with God is off, they're normally doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. Also, too, normally when people's relationship with God is off, the relationship with their spouse is off, the relationship with family is off, everything's just off. So if me and him is off, us two is off. And I feel like oftentimes we're trying to get this right without having this right here right first, which is God. And I think that's kind of the issue, or the root to a lot of our issues, is that we don't have any fellowship with God. And I feel like there's a deep fellowship in my soul that only God can feel. That's a thirst that we have that only God can really quench. But we look for that in people, and we will look for it over and over and over and over again, and we won't really find it. Now, I do know that there's another level of fellowship, which I'll let you. I don't want to.
Look, I'm like, what's the next level of fellowship? I just.
Well, with people.
Yeah.
And I think like there's many different levels of intimacy. There's the intimacy with God. Like next to God, the only person that knows you as deep as God would be a spouse. Not even your mother, because it's like you'll share things with your spouse, like fears and things that you probably wouldn't share with your mother, or at least, some people, not everybody, but some people.
Well, you know what? I would say for those who do not have a spouse or is not close with their spouse, I would say a friend. I would say a friend, because as you're talking about intimacy, as you were talking about fellowship, there is something to be said about a friendship. I think about maybe the different ones who held tight in the Bible. Prime example, Jesus and John. There might have been so many people that Jesus has known. In my young mind, reading that, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that's his cousin. So of course. Let's go back to him getting baptized. When Jesus got baptized by John seen him,
He understood the totality of who he was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
John seen him after the Spirit. And I think because it was that seeing and knowing that, like, I see you, I know you, like, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, my friend and I always joke about this. If y'all ever seen the 5 Heartbeats, where the brother was like, I know her, I've been with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't love her.
To do, was it a wife or a girl?
He was going to get engaged. Doug was going to get engaged, or Doug was going to get engaged. Yeah. And so the brother's like, I know her. And so it's almost like, and I know that was different because that was a physically intimate relationship, but it's almost like, yeah, I know what that person's about. So I'm kind of talking about, like, I know the character. I know how it's going to go. And, like, I know her. And so, in the same way, back to the Bible, because, we went left a little bit. But back to the Bible, like, John is like...
No, boy, you like, already left.
Okay, you be going left sometimes. But so back to the story of John and Jesus, it's like this is somebody who's seen me.
Oh,
God. Are you ready for marriage but tired of going on dead-end dates? Then join us for our While in Waiting webinar on November 11th. Learn the marriage mindset you need to date with intention. Spots are limited, so register now at www.aboutthislove.com/events.
back to our regularly scheduled program.
I think that meant something to Jesus to be
Yeah, it did.
to be recognized by John. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, not only that, but like on a spiritual sense, he played a part in Jesus' destiny.
Yes, he baptized them, but Jesus even allowing that, that baptism to happen is because he's seen him. You think he would just let just any Joe Blow schmo just kind of baptize him just for the sake of it and then not have any representation? I feel like a lot of what is documented in the scriptures has a meaning.
Purposeful meaning behind it, yeah.
So I think that just spoke to that. I was trying to think of who else was in fellowship. Paul and Timothy, they were in fellowship.
Yeah, but I think they were, but I thought you were going to say Jonathan and David.
Yeah, Jonathan and David. I mean, same. Because we just kind of went through David's life, I think that is a fresh example of two people who in the scriptures really walked out a friendship. You think that Jonathan really seen David?
I remember when you and I were reading it, we actually were like, yo, why is the Bible made it sound like these demons was in love? But it's like...
They probably did have
I
love.
think that they had the kind of love that you would have for a spouse, but it wasn't perverted. It wasn't like no intimacy, nothing like that. It was just two brothers that really love each other. And so, yeah, David and Jonathan had a very tight, intimate relationship. And when I say intimate, just for reference, when I use the word intimacy, I'm not talking about physical intimacy. I'm talking about intimacy as far as into me you see, as far as like a depth about you that the person knows, or a depth about a person that you know. Back to my original point, that's kind of what people actually want. Well, yeah, what we do want it, but what people actually want. A few months ago, when we've DJed on TikTok Live a few times, and over the course of that, I would go on different TikTok Lives and watch and see how people operated before we operated ours. I was always blown away because there was always like a bunch of people in TikTok Lives. And I was like, well, why? Why are people always online for? Like, why? And I think going back to what we were saying initially, people want fellowship. And it's interesting because, like, I've been in a few people's lives here and there. Like, there's some people on TikTok that I will take part in their live because they're talking about the Bible or marriage from a biblical standpoint. So I will kind of listen in on their TikTok. And a lot of them, I always take that they know me because I feel like, well, if you think you know me, you've never sat down with me one-on-one or hang out with me, so you don't actually know me. The point is, I think that online gives a facade like I actually know you. But it's like I talk to you about maybe a subject, whether it's hip hop music, the prophets in the Bible, or it was like, you don't know me. But I think what social media platforms like that do is they give an illusion of intimacy. They give an illusion of fellowship. And it is a type of fellowship, but it's only a substitution. In a YouTube video, the guy was saying how he take protein shakes before he worked out. But one time he became homeless and he started taking them just to eat for supplement meals, and he actually got sick. And my point is that if I'm in a relationship with somebody and if you don't know certain things about me, then I don't really consider you a friend. And that relationship is not really intimate. I wanted to kind of go back what I was talking about in the beginning with Tyrese's ex-wife. Because I think that you had mentioned something really about having a friend. But I think that one of the things in this whole podcast episode that I want people to actually be able to understand is that, remember I said it started when we were children, as far as intimacy and wanting to be seen. And so a lot of us didn't get that when we were children, in the beginning stages of our development. So now as adults, we're looking for that. When it comes to like fellowship, I think about people who have people in their lives who they're closely knitted to, but they're a bad influence on them. Unfortunately, destructive that could be. I mean, we all are too familiar with whether it's athletes, celebrities, or entertainers who have people that they're close to, but who are very destructive, or who may still be in a certain lifestyle that's not really conducive to them and their career. And sometimes because of whatever loyalty that we have towards people, I can only imagine having somebody, who was there for me when I was, home and nobody. They were there for me and they believed in me. But unfortunately, they were just involved in things that may not really be conducive to the lifestyle I'm trying to live now. And I just think about that as far as fellowship, just how it's important to really have a grounded foundation on good fellowship and appropriate fellowship.
As you were talking, I was thinking about why a celebrity or athlete would cut off someone that they would deem a loyal friend. And it would be more so because of their image, or they may hold on to certain ones because you had mentioned earlier just how rappers started hanging around like
dope boys, or
gangbangers or gang members. And I get the example, but there's something in them that's attracted to those qualities or to those things in a person. Just because your vocation is to be an athlete your whole lifestyle isn't an athlete. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people make that their lifestyle, yes. And then they grow to incorporate that into like their family, but that's their vocation. Same with a rapper, that's their vocation. They may do some questionable things outside of, the studio or off the field. And so when it comes to why they may cut somebody off who is, just into the streets, it's almost like, are they really cutting off that side of them, like that's within them that they are attracted to? Because there's people in the celebrity world that still act like that or still carry those characteristics and traits into their stardom. And they actually are famous because of it. And so it's like, then what do you say? We're talking about everyday Joe Schmoes who are trying to live their lives upright for the Lord and just get through everyday life. But I want to pinpoint the fact that you are mentioning, once again, somebody who you are relating to either because of your vocation or because there's a characteristic, because then you're saying, basically those characteristics in a person, how would you go about doing that? Because to me, I would be loyal to a friend maybe for a different reason than you would be loyal to a friend, right? But how do you and I define that? As you're thinking, I do want to say this. You have mentioned people really don't know you if they don't know where you live or where your kids were born or whatever. I still think that's very surface level.
What I'm saying is like, that's a start. I'm not saying like that's the end all be all of our relationship, but that's the start. Like, it's kind of like before I met you, I was doing music. I had put out a couple of albums and people were like, oh man, you do music? We didn't know that. And really it was spoken word. But I was like, yeah. And I think that's the first time like it actually dawned on me like, yeah, because you don't know me like that. That's why.
People at your job said that. They didn't know that you did music.
Yeah. My point is to answer your question is that like, my name or whatever, or my wife's name or where I'm from, that's just a baseline. Kind of like a couple years ago, somebody that we know, their wife was going through illness and they didn't put it on social media. If you didn't know them personally, you wouldn't have known that what she was going through. But we know them personally, so we knew what they were going through. Does that make sense? It's like if you're not really inside my inner circle, like you don't really get to know, or if you're inside my inner circle, there's certain things you should know about me.
Yeah, and then I think there's like levels to it.
Yeah.
The scripture talks about it, the deep calls out to the deep.
I mean, I was thinking about Jesus when he transfigured in front of the 3 disciples. It's like, why didn't he do that before the 12? Why just the 3?
Because there's different levels. And you know what? I heard someone say this on a fellowship call actually some years ago, that 3 was the maximum number of intimacy. Like you're saying, there's levels to it, but 3 is like that number where once you start to expand, you lose the intimacy.
Yeah.
Once you get beyond that.
I agree with that.
And you know what? Like I said earlier, like Jesus really did things very intentionally. Like things that are mentioned in the Bible is very intentional and symbolic. So it's like, yeah, he did that to show these are the 3 that I know that I can have like a depth in. My mom used to say, growing up, you might just have one good one. All you need is one good one. And I'm like, Mom, stop saying that, because sometimes you don't even have the good one. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I get what she's saying. It's like there has to be somebody that you have that personable experience with. And so on the outside, we might think, oh, yeah, the one good one, that is my spouse, or that is my sibling, or that's my mom, or that's my parents.
I mean, it kind of reminded me like we always had an individual that would call us and they would always ask us for help or whatever. And after I got the phone with them, you'd always be like, dang, they ain't asked how you was doing, how your wife and kids, like we could be in here dead and they didn't even ask. And so I think that when you talk about having the one, yes, like when you said earlier, what intimacy might mean to me might not mean the same thing to you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have to land this plane. When I speak about intimacy in a person, because that's what people desire, one of the things that I think about is somebody who won't put me in a predicament where there's an ultimatum, like choose me or your wife or blah, 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 or have me in a predicament where it's like, well, I'm married, but you had me come to a party, or kind of find out
like a singles party or a singles meetup or whatever.
What I'm saying is that somebody could just like live that way or live that way as a lifestyle but don't respect the fact that I don't live that way. That's what I'm saying. Because I knew somebody like that. I knew somebody like that like years ago who they were a believer and their buddies wasn't believers and they had to come to a strip club. Like, yo, man, you're my man. Why'd you have me come here for? Y'all know, like, I don't live this way. That's what I mean. Like, when I think about somebody that I'm in fellowship with, you won't put me in a predicament that you know that I just wouldn't do. You wouldn't give me bad advice or like, hey man, you need to leave your wife. I think about somebody that's upstanding, has my best interests, will tell me what I don't want to hear. Like, no man, you need to go home and spend time with your wife and kids. If that was the case or whatever, kind of like what you were saying that the guy was hanging out with his buddies a few times, but not his wife. Like, no, dude, you need to go hang out with your wife, or asking the question, hey man, do you spend this kind of time with your wife as well? Nah, man. Well, go spend that time with your wife then, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to live with her. You ain't got to live with us.
Well, so then let me say this. I think somebody would be friends with that, because we talked about this in the series Intentional Dating That Leads to Marriage, how it may come to a point where you're friends with somebody and you're starting to live that different lifestyle or be walking in this journey with the Lord. And after a while, you cannot stay lukewarm. You have to make a decision. The Lord requires us to make a decision. The Lord does. And same with intimacy. The Lord requires us to have certain levels of intimacy with Him. There's rules to the engagement. You know, if you want these qualities out of someone you are fellowshipping with, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a family member, whether it be a friend, there has to be rules to the engagement where
Boundaries.
I mean, boundaries, yes, but rules to the engagement, meaning I'm here on this level, and no, I'm not requiring you to be on that level with me, but I'm not going down here with you. So like you said, I'm not going to no club or no questionable place with you, and that be where we like live or keep our friendship or how we play out our friendship. We're not going to do that there. And so I think if we understand that just for ourselves, I don't have to tell you that as someone who I'm trying to build a friendship with.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not about to go there with you. I'm not only talking to you through text. I'm not only going to send you memes back and forth. I'm going to give you a phone call. I'm going to check in. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm doing that for myself so that then when someone comes to me and like try to engage with me in a friendship, it's almost like this is how I engage in a friendship. And if you and I can't engage on that level, then the level of depth that we have it's probably just going to be surface level.
Yeah.
You know?
I get it. I dig it.
Yeah. So to your point, I think that for someone who wants a deeper level of intimacy, you have to first walk in that for yourself. You got to first exude those qualities yourself. You got to like first have those rules of engagement, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and I would say that I ask the Lord to first teach you how to become what it is you desire. Because popular culture is like, yo, you want this, go get it, but you don't have to become what it is that you want. And it's like, that's just not biblical. If I actually ask God for patience or ask God to help me control my anger, He gonna put you in situations where you're gonna get angry, and it's gonna teach you, and through trial and error, you actually learn to control your anger. You know, that's one of the things that I feel like the Lord kind of helped me master in my early 20s was how to control my anger. But my point is that like seek the Lord, like and really I think this is kind of what it goes back to what I said earlier, where it's like, well, you and Him, as far as you and God, and then it can be you and somebody else. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, for somebody that's been, you know, knowing my wife for 10 years, been with her for 10 years, been married to her almost 9 come February, like this don't work if this don't work. You know, at least at our household it don't. You know, because it's been times where I may have been a butthole to my wife, and the Holy Spirit may actually convict my heart, you know, and tell me to repent or, you know, or to cut something out. It's been times where if my relationship isn't right with God, how can it be right with my wife? And that's one of the things that I realized about people over the years is that some people don't want accountability.
Personal accountability, yeah.
It's like, yo, I want to tell you what's wrong with you, but I don't want personal accountability for myself. So, like I said, this podcast episode really came about because the 5-part series that me and my wife did, Intentional Dating That Leads to Marriage, some of the comments and things, we kind of talked about them and actually like wow. But I think that one of the things that we thought about was that like oftentimes people think they want relationship, and when I mean relationship, I mean a romantic relationship or a partner, but what they actually want is just fellowship. And because they don't have that, 1 with God, 2 with family, and 3 with friends, or if they do, it's not healthy. So then when they do get into a romantic relationship, that's not healthy either. So I think that what I would encourage you all to do, who desire relationships, even if it is romantic, I would first seek out fellowship, with the Lord and strengthen that, and then seek and ask God to send you friends who you can trust and who are faithful and trustworthy. And I think that will kind of help navigate you to being a good partner. Because I would say over the years, like before I met my wife, tons of dudes in my life who were strong believers and leaders in the Lord who really kind of put me on game spiritually and helped me actually to become a better human being, better man. And it would call me out when I was younger. When I did little stupid things, they would call me out. And I felt like they kind of prepared me for a relationship romantically with my wife, as far as like how to behave, how to conduct myself. It's not that I was an animal, but it's like, like some of the things that we do, we don't realize it's just not really appropriate, or they're not really conducive in a relationship. It's like, I'm married. Before I got married to Sherelle, I just came home 2, 3 in the morning. That was it. Like, I ain't have to talk to nobody about it. I just came home, took a shower, and went to bed. But now I'm married. If I come home 2, 3 in the morning, I'm like, yo, where you been at, yo? Like, what's going on? And that's my point, is that like certain things that are conducive now are not really conducive in a relationship with someone romantically. And I think that oftentimes we lack these skills because we've never had fellowship with anybody as far as like just on a non-romantic level. So that's my point that I wanted to make. I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. We were jokingly saying how I didn't take a wifey one-on-one. I didn't go to wifey university. You didn't go to husband university. But we had people in our lives who walked us through it, who talked us through it, who continue to walk us and talk us through it. And our hope is for the next generation, being our children and the kids who are in our care, we would be able to walk them through that and put the qualities in their life right now, so that when they go out into the world and become friends and become somebody's mother or father, or uncle or sister or brother, they know how to walk through that and conduct themselves in a way where they won't have to learn it on the fly.
Yeah, most definitely.
And bump their head. Hopefully they learn from instruction and not example. But so I think this was a great episode, and I think we'll expand on this some more as we get inspiration from the Lord.
Yeah, thank you guys for for watching our podcast. If for those who are on YouTube or TikTok clips, we go to YouTube and see the full video. Thank you guys for just for the support of the 5-part series that we just did. Really, it's encouraging to us. I feel like oftentimes, when you walk with the Lord, like your goal is to encourage people and to make an impact. And so you don't really know if you're doing that or not. So like, when people kind of comment, hit us in the comments or whatever on YouTube or TikTok, or even in the neighborhood app, people really would actually tuning into our podcast. So I just think, just say, hey guys, it's encouraging to actually know that we're making an impact. Really just following our hearts and following the mission that God gave us as 2 married individuals, what I'm saying? So thank you guys, for the support, for the love. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us, And as always, you can adjust our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be adjusted. If you want to watch the video, please, you can find that on YouTube. So until next time, Delvin Sherelle, Father's Love Podcast, Kingdom Family Legacy, Baltimore, be more. You can always be more. Until next time, peace.
Oh, God.